Hi, I'm Mike, and welcome back to Haying on Our Wyoming Life. This is kind of a take two. We've got the baler back up and running. We're going to take you through mowing, raking, and baling, and we're going to take a look at some yields. It's all coming up today on Our Wyoming Life. Hey there, gang. Welcome back to Our Wyoming Life, where today we are haying. This is our Rouse 99 mower. It mows 18 feet at a time, and is actually the smallest implement that we'll use during haying. We're working on a 74-acre field right now. We're just getting ready to wrap it up so that we can move on to the next step. We cut most of it yesterday afternoon. We've got a little bit left to cut on it, and then we'll be able to move back in here with the rake and hopefully be able to bale as well today. Now, we live in what's considered high desert, so it's very, very dry here. And even though we did have a pretty wet spring, the rain has shut off. The humidity's dropped down to about 14%, and it doesn't take long for us to dry hay. And that's actually a good thing, because we have a lot of hay left to cut. We've cut about 175 acres so far. We've got about 175 bales out of that acreage, and we have a whole lot left to go. Our goal this year is to cut between 500 and 600 acres, and giving us about 500 to 600 bales. We're hoping to average about a bale an acre. Right now we're just a little bit below that, but hopefully as we move through, we'll actually be able to bring that average up. One of the reasons that we're below average is because we were broken down. The baler was broken for the last few days. We did manage to get it fixed back up. We actually put on new belts and new chains, and hopefully it'll work itself out and the baler will work just fine for us. But because we had hay down when the baler broke, we actually had hay that laid on the ground way longer than we wanted to. It got way drier than we wanted it to dry. And then when you run it through the baler and it's spinning in there, it actually just kind of turns to dust. So my guess is that we lost some production out of the last field that we cut. That field is about 64 acres, and we only got 45 bales off of it. So that's way less than a bale an acre. So my problem there is that it was dry, it spun. I'm thinking that it just kind of spun out. That's why we're baling a little bit faster here on this field that we're going to be working on today. But first, we have to get done cutting it. This field is known as the bee field. It's actually where a number of the honeybees live here on the ranch. These honeybees provide a majority of the honey that we sell online and through the farm store. I don't know if you can see them or hear them, but they're definitely moving out here today. It's going to be a really nice day to cut and bale as well, because it's going to be about 80 degrees today, which will help dry some of this out. It was a little windy last night, which actually wasn't bad. It helped dry it out as well. So a lot of this stuff that we cut already is already pretty dry. Now, it's a little damp still, but we're hoping that when we make our first bale, we'll be able to tell if we can keep baling. We may not be able to. There's no guarantee there. So this is the strip. This is it that we have left to cut today, and then we'll be back in with the rake. In here, we've got a little bit of the yellow sweet clover that we've been talking about quite a bit, but there's not a lot of it in this field. But it definitely needs to dry and get as dry as possible. The rest of it is just prairie grasses, needle grass. There's a little bit of fescue in here, maybe some wild barley, and it should make really nice hay. But what waits to be seen is if we're going to be able to bale it today. We're going to bale at least one bale today, and then we're going to use a moisture tester to find out if it is dry enough to continue with the baling. We may end up just rolling it right back out and letting it dry a little bit more. There's no way to tell, but we need to get to that point. So let's get our mower up and running here. We don't have that much left, so I don't have a whole lot of maintenance to do on the mower. Usually we would grease it up this morning. Honestly, I have about 2 trips around this field, so I'm not too worried about it. There are multiple grease points on this thing that we have to worry about, and these are the blades that do all the work. These sickle blades are 9 feet long. They're serrated. They're really sharp. And as we swing around to the backside, you can see how sharp they are. But these were brand new when we started cutting. And we've only cut, so far, about 300 acres. So we still have a long way to go, and these blades are already starting to wear out. Luckily, we have another set that we can put on here. These guards that you see right here, these are actually used to move rocks out of the way so that they don't get in here and break teeth. Any rocks that we have will hopefully be ejected by these guards. The drive itself is what we call a wobble drive, and this drive is moved by the PTO of the tractor. As this spins, it moves our blades back and forth throughout the guards. As you can see, it'll cut the hay right off. At least that's the hope. A lot of hoping going on today. Once we're ready to get going, all we got to do is get ourselves lined up to our patch that we're going to be cutting. And like I said, this is pretty small. We're going to just kind of really quickly run over this, and we'll be back to finish this thing up. Once we're all lined up, we just drop our sickles and fire it up. And off we go. So knowing exactly how much cutting you're doing is pretty essential, especially when it's time to plan out your day, right? So we know that with the 18-foot mower that we have on here, we figure in about a 10% overlap, so we're cutting right around 11 acres per hour with this thing. That means a field like this takes about 7.5 hours to get cut and mowed. That's probably the most time-consuming part of this process. Raking and baling goes a whole lot faster, but can be just a little bit more complicated, as we're going to show you here in just a few minutes. The most complicated part about mowing any type of field, for us anyways, is how do you make a corner and how do you turn around? Now I'm going to show you guys how we normally make a corner. It's a little bit different because we have a strip here, but you'll get the general gist of it. So as we come up to the end of our field here, we're actually going to make an outside loop and swing back in to finish up the end. We lift up our cutter bars, our sickles, and we swing around in an outside corner. Then we're able to cut across the top of our little section of field. We drop our bars again, our sickles, and we cut across the top of the field. We make another loop and do the same thing again. Now, on a strip like this, I may not actually make a corner like that. I may just swing out and just grab it, come straight back down. But imagine if the field was, you know, a mile across, you wouldn't want to do that. So you got to be as efficient as possible. Mowing takes place at about 6 miles per hour, sometimes a little bit less, depending on how rough your field is. And that, of course, changes the time frame in which you have to get these fields done also. Really, though, haying is just a race against time. We're trying to get the hay cut raked and baled before it gets too dry. And even sitting out in the field like this, as pasture, eventually it will get too dry just being out here. It's going to dry up, it's going to turn brown, and becomes unharvestable. So everything is just about trying to get things done as fast and as efficiently as possible to be able to make this the most efficient process that we can. It's definitely not glamorous, and it does give you a lot of time to think. In fact, I've got a couple ideas that I'm going to bounce off you guys a little bit later, and you can have a choice in what happens here on Our Wyoming Life in the future. So make sure you stick around for that. I've only got one more strip to take in this field. I'm going to swing around the bees here. We're going to head back up and wrap things up. Then what we're going to do is actually take this tractor back to the house. I'm going to switch it out with the rake. We're going to run the rake on this tractor just because I like to leave a tractor, if I can, up by home in case we need it. That'll be the 6420. We're driving the 6410 today. We will rake with the 6410 as well, and then bale with our big tractor, the 4055. So Jeff will come back down. He's going to get a little bit of a head start on us in the raking department. We'll check in with him and talk a little bit about raking. And in the meantime, we're going to finish up cutting, and then we'll be back before you know it.
Hey, it's Ranch Hand Jeff, and now that the mowing is done and the grass has had about 24 hours on the ground, 82-degree temperatures, light breeze, it should be dry enough. So we're going to start raking. You can see we've got the rake out and ready to go. So let's go. I think raking is the easiest part of haying because there's no PTO to worry about. You do have to watch what's going on behind you in case you get a jam, but not like with the mower and the baler. There's so many moving parts on those that can go wrong. But raking, pretty simple. As I jinx it, you watch. Maybe not. Another thing I like about the farming side of ranching, you get out here in the open spaces where there's nothing to hit. It's a lot easier than driving on the road. So haying is probably my favorite part. Well, oh, calving's pretty fun too. So that's how we go, and we'll just knock this field right out.
And just like that, it's time to get baling. It is just past 8 o'clock and I'm out here baling probably into the dark because it's hot out. It's still 75 degrees at 8 o'clock at night. This tractor doesn't have working air conditioning. We do have a new compressor for it. We just haven't had a chance to put it on yet. So we're gonna take advantage of some cooler temperatures and we're gonna get out and bale. So let's get fired up and we'll get out of here. The windrows really do look pretty good down here. Probably the fullest that I've seen this year for haying. The 160 acres that we baled to begin with, not exactly our best field, even though there was a lot of clover in there. But this one looks a whole lot better. And the field that we baled before, this one over here, we actually had to let that sit because we were working on our baler. So this is the first real test of how many bales per acre we can get this year. So all we got to do is get ourselves lined up. And then it's off we go. So the baler has just alerted us that we are ready to make our first bale. What we're going to do is we're actually going to kick this bale out, and then we have to do a few measurements just to make sure that we can continue baling in this field. So let's kick it out of here. Out she comes. We'll close our back gate. And then we're going to shut it down. Now, I gotta find my bale probe. This is the bale probe. This is gonna tell us how this bale is doing moisture-wise and temperature-wise. They're both very important. So we're looking for as low of moisture as we can get. Should be right about 14%, somewhere in there is what we're kind of hoping for. So there we go, 14.5. And I want to test a few different places around the bale. 14.5. And this field was just cut yesterday. This is the benefit of being in an arid climate. We don't have to worry about things drying very long. They cut them, hit the ground, and we can almost get them baled right away. So we cut this yesterday, raked it, and we're gonna bale it today. We're gonna continue with our baling experience. This time I'm gonna walk you through how this bale is made. So the bale gets sucked up directly into the front of the baler through those pickup teeth that we dropped down earlier, and we are just going to kind of weave our way along throughout this windrow, which is what we call in front of us. So the windrow is obviously the hay that was left over by the rake, and what we're looking at is actually this monitor. This monitor shows us both sides of the bale, the left side and the right side. And what we're trying to do is just keep them even. So we want to fill up the bale as much as possible. So what I like to do is fill up one side to the other. So I'll fill up one side, then I'll switch over, just a very, very slight move, and start filling up the other side. The number shown down here in the corner is the size of the bale, 56 inches right now. We're aiming for about 60 inches. So now that it beeped at me, I know I'm within 5 inches of my goal. and we can start weaving back and forth a little bit more closely. So we're going to try to keep the top of these bars as close as we can to the top of the scale and as even as possible. This will make a nice full bale for us. Got a little bit farther to go here, but we're almost there. The next beep, and it'll start wrapping for us. There we go, we stop. It's done wrapping, it says eject. And out comes our bale. And away it goes. While we're stopped here, I want to jump out and take a look at the net wrap and how the baler wraps it up. So, baler, there's our bale. It didn't hit the fence, thankfully, although it might have tried to. So during that wrapping cycle, it's actually putting this net wrap on the bale. We give it 2.5 wraps per bale, which then means that for a roll of net wrap, we should get about 200 to 250 bales out of a roll. So inside the back of the baler, that's where the roll is stored and how it comes out. We open up this door. This is a full roll of net wrap on this side, or on the top here. So when we run out, we can refill this one that it's actually spooling off of. The net wrap rolls down in between a couple rollers here, and actually, when it starts wrapping the bale, it'll run down underneath in between the belts of the baler and the bale itself, and then it rolls up and wraps around. There's a cute little diagram of what it looks like. And I wish more than anything that I could actually put a camera inside the baler to be able to show you guys what's going on in here, but unfortunately I can't. So we've got a whole lot more bales to make, so let's hit the hay. Literally. We're gonna make a whole bunch of bales. We're gonna be out here until dark, and we'll get you a bale total when we get to the end. Alrighty gang, it is about 4 hours later. I'm just wrapping up this field. Excuse me. We've gotten about 53 bales off of this field so far. So that actually does put us right back at that 1,000 pounds per acre average that we're keeping throughout everything that we're doing to this point. Now, up to now, we've baled 211 bales. In fact, here comes another one in a second, maybe. That's good. I mean, really, because last year we put up 375 bales total. I don't think we're going to have any problem reaching our bale total. It's just a matter of we just keep on plugging through this entire thing. Now, I told you that we have a lot of time to think when we're out driving around in circles, and I actually had an idea that I wanted to bounce off you guys. So I'm I'm hoping that you guys will comment on this whole thing and let me know what you think. So back in the past, I don't know, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, something like that, we actually used to have a podcast. That podcast was called the Our Wyoming Life Perspective, and I'm kind of thinking about bringing it back in two different ways. So one thing we would do is post the audio on the podcast of our live streams that we actually hold on the Beyond the Ranch channel. Those happen a couple times a month, and I figured that we could actually just take that audio, put it up as a podcast, which might be kind of fun. Also, I would love to do some interviews with other producers or people involved in agriculture about their perspective. Not so much our perspective, but their perspective, your guys' perspective. And it can even be consumers or producers or whoever would like to tell us about their agriculture experience, what they have going on. So if this sounds like something you might be interested in checking out, if you listen to podcasts, then just leave a comment below and let me know what you think. So I'm going to wrap up the rest of this field really quick. 211 bales so far, which is actually really good. It's enough to feed, I have to do the math really quick, but about 50 cows for the entire winter for 180 days. So that's actually a pretty good number up until this point. So we're gonna cut you loose for the night. I'm gonna just, I got a couple more little places I gotta pick up a bale. Maybe I'll make another bale or two. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I hope you enjoyed coming out and hanging with us today. It is just past midnight and I want to be done. I'm gonna go to bed. So we'll see you later. Make sure you subscribe, follow along as we explore the ranch life and escape the ordinary right here on Our Wyoming Life.